folks. Welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. Thank you for tuning in as always. If you are new, if you are an old listener, thank you. I appreciate you being here. It is hot in New York City. We're in the middle of a heat wave here in August, and we're all hanging in there the best we can. I'm feeling good. I'm looking forward to going to Taipei in October. My girlfriend and I are going to several different countries in Southeast Asia, and I'm going to be doing a show in Taipei, Taiwan, which I'm very excited about. So keep tuned in for how that goes. I intend to have some additional information about how that goes. On the show today, my friend and comedian Chelsea Taylor, very funny comic, very bright, intelligent, grounded woman who's aware of what her mental health needs are, and she's taken steps to get to where she needs mentally. And I really enjoy that about her and how grounded she is, especially in relation to New York City. Chelsea Taylor is actually going to be leaving New York in a few weeks. So when I found this out, I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to sit down and chat before she did. We talked a lot about what went into that decision, where she is mentally, what went into that, and it ended up being a really really nice, grounded, revealing conversation. And I hope you guys like it. If you guys enjoy the show, I would appreciate it if you guys would subscribe on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or Stitcher Radio. Those are the two platforms where you can find us. You can also share my RSS feed on Libsyn. I appreciate you guys helping me get the word out for this show because I love doing it, and it is where I'm putting my focus in. And where you guys are, I will come and do stand-up, or I will come and do my one-man show. So if you guys are out there and you want me to come to your city, let me know. I'm on Twitter at @ComicWillCarey. My website is willcareyisfunny.com. Also, before we get into the interview with Chelsea, I'd like to really quickly promote a project that a couple of my friends are doing. You may have heard Alex Fleming and Corey Spencer on different episodes of this podcast. They were both great guests. They have a new podcast with our mutual friend Maurice Licorice, who hasn't been on yet, but I'm hoping to rectify that. So they have a new podcast that the three of them are doing called Love and Lost. It is about Alex Fleming sitting down with Corey and Maurice and watching the TV show Lost. Maurice and Corey love Lost. Alex has never seen it before. And if you're into pop culture and podcasting, I think it's right up your alley. If you're into other shows like Raised by TV or my friends, The Nostalgic Front, I think you guys should check it out. You can listen to their show at loveandlostpodcast.com, and it'll be available shortly, starting on August 15th, everywhere you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. And again, that is Love and Lost, a podcast about loss, loveandlostpodcast.com. I hope you guys check that out and support my friends, support some good people. So without further ado, let's get to my conversation with Chelsea Taylor. Okay, perfect. So I don't engage a lot on the internet because I have lately not seen anything positive coming from it, even from people I'm friends with. So I'm connected, but I'm lonely a lot, even though I have a girlfriend and friends and stuff. Yeah. I just see them very infrequently. And I don't know do you ever feel like that? I wonder.
Yeah, I think all people do, and I think a lot of it has to do with social media for sure. Mm-hmm. I deactivated Facebook for 4 months this year because I did get a sense that I was feeling depressed, and I noticed that I was having thoughts that just didn't feel like me. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
kind of just mean thoughts about people that I'm just like, that's not really how I see people. Like, deep down, that's not who I am. And in the past year of my life, I've been trying to make a lot of positive changes, and I think in a lot of ways my life has improved. But the area in which it has not improved is my social life.
Yeah.
I watched 3 of my friends, at least 3. Honestly, there's more than that, but 3 significant friends kind of go through, I don't know, maybe it's me changing or it could be them, but drastic personality changes. Like, all of a sudden,
like what was once a friendship was now like a contentious argument.
Yeah, like I couldn't tell them anything about my life if it was a bad thing going on with me in my life. They didn't want to hear it. They don't care. And if it was a good thing going on in my life, they would ask like passive aggressive questions about it, like they were jealous or just not happy for me. And yeah, they made decisions and did things with basically no regard for my feelings. And
are these comedy friends or like real life friends? Not that comedy.
One of them is an actor, and we go way back. We don't go anywhere anymore.
Sure.
I cut him out. I had to.
Yeah.
He was, and like looking back on it, it's on me because these are all friendships that if I really was honest with myself and looked at them, were not authentic or genuine friendships. So
I had that a similar thought over the last several years. I always figured the more people I knew and like who knew my like name that's what friendship was. But I was doing a show once and I referred to a guy jokingly as my friend, and then he corrected me and said that we were more like acquaintances, and that kind of hurt.
That's so mean and unnecessary. Like, what? He doesn't have to say that. There's no need for him to like clarify that.
Yeah, I feel like, and especially since the election and the fact that I think probably amongst like our friends too, like I think most of us all probably think similarly, or at least not as drastic as it gets as we express it online for the sake of bits.
Well,
but
I've been doing some reading on like abnormal psych a lot this year. I've been going to the library a lot. I've been reading a lot about different things, but the one thing I read it was stuff about like psychopaths and narcissists and sociopaths. The difference between sociopaths and psychopaths are typically born with that. It's like psychopaths are people who like hurt animals when they're 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not, sociopath is learned. Anybody can become a sociopath. And I think that's what's happening right now with social media. I think Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I think it's turning us all into sociopaths.
We're becoming detached from our we're becoming detached from our feelings and our ability to affect the feelings of others.
Yeah.
I don't think you're wrong. Like that's why like I have a few friends, like I talked to John Rosenberg about this recently. He's like one of the few like super positive people that I engage with.
He's really sweet, yeah. On
the internet. And the reason I wanted to reach out to you only because again we don't know each other super well, but I feel like I've seen your stand up and I like it, and we've had nice conversations in the back rooms of shows, and I guess I didn't want to turn I don't want to turn this into your New York exit interview, but but I am curious about that because I was talking to Adam Sank, who said he's gonna leave stand up at the end of the year, and I'm curious like because I'm curious where the mindset is. Well, first of all, I'm trying to think where I met you.
Probably at the Creek.
That I feel like that's a reoccurring
That's very
thing.
likely, yeah.
Yeah, that is the Creek is my comedy store in the 70s. I don't know if you feel that way or not, but I feel like that's sort of like my place, and Rebecca is like our den mom in a way.
Yeah.
And I hope I hope she would take that as a compliment, because I mean that as a compliment.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it was probably the creek. I'm curious, though, like, where do you come from? Like, where did you grow up?
Kennesaw, Georgia.
Kennesaw, Georgia.
Yeah. And then when I was a teenager, we moved to Alpharetta. And then I went to college in Atlanta, Georgia, and stayed there until I was like 26. Then I moved up here. Yeah.
Where's Kennesaw?
It's where the Braves play.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so not quite Atlanta, but close enough
like
to
a
be
suburb, yeah.
to be Atlanta. Yeah, I have that with the New York Red Bulls, the soccer team that plays in New Jersey, and all the other New York sport teams that have New York in the title, but aren't. But play in Jersey because there's no space. Okay, so
sometimes when I meet people from here and they ask where I'm from, I just say Atlanta, because I'm like, you don't want to have to explain what Kennesaw is, because it's also like, who cares?
I feel the same way. I'm from a very small town in Maryland called Lusby. That's about an hour south of Baltimore, so I just say Baltimore. And then even Baltimore City is different from Baltimore County. Like, Baltimore County's the suburbs and where like John Waters movies are set, and then the city is like
interesting,
the Wire and what have you.
I think as I get older, I'm getting more and more obsessed with the small towns.
Yeah.
Like I love sometimes to go on Wikipedia and look up like tiny, like, obscure places.
Oh yeah.
I think I'm like over New York. I just feel like it's
Are you looking for an escape? Was this part of your escape plan?
Kind of. No, I mean, not necessarily. I think I'm just more fascinated with maybe I think I'm just bored with New York in general. I feel like it's been covered. I've done it, and now I'm ready for something else. So yeah. So I kind of like hearing about like all these little other places that I've never been, and they're like, I love hearing facts like that are just, I wouldn't have known that unless you and I were hanging out right now.
Yeah, exactly. Interestingly enough, another fun fact, the main highway that goes through where I'm from, Route 2 and 4, if you stay on it, it turns into Pennsylvania Avenue. So I always jokingly refer to, when I call my mom, I refer to the president as like the next door neighbor. So for like 8 years, it was like a super fun joke. But now I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, what is he doing? You got to get him under control. He's messing up a lot of things, in my opinion. I think about that sometimes too, but all of my escape plans from New York involve leaving America. Like I think about cities that I've been to and or have read about, and I think about even like rural areas and countries I like, and I have these like crazy fantasies about like becoming a bartender in like a rural country somewhere in the somewhere else in the world.
I could dig it. That sounds great. I've definitely I've had fantasies of changing my name and just disappearing, like just, and I don't think I would ever do that, like, but that seems like the most freeing thing you could ever do, is like just completely fucking say, you know what, I'm starting over.
Exactly.
Bye, America.
Yeah, I even feel like I've done a little bit of that since, like, I would not say I have quit comedy, but I definitely do not feel the urge to hustle 3 open mics a night, nor do I feel the urge to aggressively try to get on shows. Like I will try to get on shows, but I don't I don't stress about it. Like, and I still like to get on stage when I do, and I like doing this, and I like doing my one-man show, but it's just it gets to a point, there's a point of like diminishing returns.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's so many comedians. There's just so many of them. There's a lot of comedy out there. Netflix is releasing specials left and right. Yeah, I mean, and if you don't have... another thing is, like, I personally feel this way. Like, I don't think necessarily there's anything about my stand-up or my narrative that deserves more time than another person's at this point. Like, maybe I'll feel differently later, but I kind of feel like I love this movement of like giving stage time to voices we haven't heard from before. I love that, and I support it. And yeah, I mean, the world's on fire right now. My stand-up career is not a priority. Like it just isn't. It's just not. In 2013 when I moved here, the world was a different place. I was a different person. I did have, like, my priorities were more with my social circle and, getting on shows and getting better at comedy and writing jokes. And now I'm older. I'm 31 years old, and it's 2018. The world is an extremely different place.
Yeah, it is. And I'm 32. What was I doing in 2013? I was probably still out. This time in 2013, I was probably like at the creek somewhere or some other random open mic, looking at my phone. Yeah, I know. I wonder if a lot of I feel like there's a lot of comedians, especially in our social circle, that have that kind of thing of like, oh, like there's this, like the day after Trump got elected, I felt being around the city this very palpable sense of like the end of the world. Like, in like disaster movies when like the asteroid is hitting and the attempt to stop it has failed.
Yep.
And there's just that interim time before it hits. That's how I felt like in New York. That's the only time I called a friend of mine and was like, I need to get drunk. And she was like, me too. Where do you want to do that? But I'm curious, like, so you move here in 2013. I'm curious, like, who that person you used to be is. Like, if I can trace this a little bit. So you grew up in the Atlanta suburbs. What was your home life like?
It was pretty good. When I was younger, I had a great childhood. I lived in a small neighborhood, and I had a group of friends, and we played outside all the time. And then my parents got divorced when I was a teenager, and that's when it all kind of...
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I mean, and the older I get, the more I'm just realizing that my parents are people, and they're not perfect, and I'm a person, and I'm not perfect, and I'm not expected to be perfect, and neither are they. And relationships sometimes don't work out, and that's fine. That's fine. They were together for 15 years. That's pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
The longest romantic relationship I had was like 3 or 4 years off and on, which is a huge reason why I moved to New York, because I had a significant relationship end, and it was hard seeing him everywhere. And
this was in Georgia?
And it was in Atlanta. It just made sense for me to get out. And I'd been to New York before, and I loved it. So I said, hey, let me try New York, even though I know it's expensive and stressful. And I don't regret living here. I do not regret moving here. I think it's done a lot for me. It's taught me a lot of like really great lessons. It's taught me to be stronger. It's taught me to be patient. It's taught me to juggle. Man, my like multitasking is on a different level. That's New York teaches you how to hustle really hard.
Yeah. It's sort of required. I think that's why New Yorkers hate tourists, is because it's not because of the obvious things like the blocking the sidewalk or like the looking up at things. It's that New Yorkers resent leisure.
Oh yeah.
That's what I think. Like
accurate.
Because like things are better now, but like when I was working like 7 days a week and barely making my rent to live in a room in Sunset Park, and I was like bleary-eyed and exhausted all the time, and getting home like at like 2 a.m. and walking through people fist fighting in the street. The next day if I saw people like, oh wow, that's a cool building. What building is that? I'm like, I will end you. That's kind of how I felt. But I still try. I still will not let this city beat me, if that makes any sense. I still have some fight to it. I'm not saying that you've let New York beat you, but because it sounds like you're at a place where it's not where you need to be anymore, and that's
a mature
realization.
It is, and something I have been thinking about for probably like the past year or two. It's just been churning in my head, and I think, yeah, I kept getting reasons to stay and make it work. I would get like job opportunities, or I'd start dating somebody or something like that. And I would say, okay, so I have this going for me. I should try to make this city work. And I've always had the attitude of like, what can I do to make it better? I consider myself to be a pretty optimistic person. And
I would say that.
I'm hardworking. And I've been doing that, I think, like the past year and a half. But, even like you were saying, the election, that really affected me. I mean, I usually do dry January, like every year.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it in 2017.
Oh, no. Who could?
My drinking hit a level that was just insane in 2017. And I took almost 3 months off later in the summer.
Yeah.
And it was really good. It was really good to kind of reset and slow down and have a moment to just kind of go within, which I'm also not trying to go too deep within, because that's another dark pit you don't want to go too down into.
Yeah, of course. Less, I think Mark Maron says, lest you fall down the pit of self, or something to that effect. Yeah, I think some people do, and then they don't come back out.
Yeah, and I think New York is it is a tough city, and it is very fun. It is like, I've told people this before, it's like a video game. If you unlock certain levels, you'll find yourself on a rooftop drinking rosé with celebrities. You know what I mean? Like, you'll get to go to the coolest restaurants. Like, you'll win some contest. You'll there's amazing, incredible opportunities here in the city. But like a video game, you can really lose some lives.
Right.
Really
you just hit enemies a couple times where it's just like, and then.
Yeah, like you can really.
No, I could see that.
You can really fall into like a pit of fire and find yourself. It's like a game of Mario. You like become smaller, and you're like desperately trying to find your like 1-up mushroom or whatever. Isn't that the one that makes you bigger? The mushroom.
Well, the 1-up mushroom, you'd get an extra life, but there's the mushroom that would make you
bigger.
Grow. Yeah, but I know what you're saying.
So you're running around, and I kind of feel like I hit my game over in New York.
Right.
It's like I could restart. I could probably find a way. Like if I wanted to, I could go, how can I restart in New York? I know. I'll move in with some weird guy in Coney Island and pay $400 a month, but then I'll just like spiral into another, like, you know what I mean? Like you can keep going in this city. No one's forcing me to leave.
Yeah.
Or you can just go, oh, I played the game and it's game over. Okay, next game. Like next thing in my life.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I don't. Coney Island is the next step after Coney Island, I think, is just going into the water. So that's a hard that's a hard reset. Or like I feel the same way about like the Rockaways, or like people that like the far outer boroughs.
Yeah.
Like I mean, part of the reason
it's quite cheap to live out there. Like it's sustainable. It's a part of New York where anybody really can live there and make it. Like it's
no, and then it's just that those 2 hours on the train. I did it once coming from Woodside to I went from Woodside to Coney Island. It took 3 hours on the N or the Q train.
I worked with a lady who lived off the Canarsie L stop and commuted Monday through Friday. It was like our office was near Grand Central. She commuted every day. That's a very long commute.
That's
a lot of train. That's like what, like 3.5 hours per day. She spends like almost 20 hours a week on a train. That's incredible.
Yeah. You start to add up that. Yeah. How many days are you just on the L train? And
the job, she wasn't making that much money. I'm like, this is not worth it. And it's the L train, which is... That's a mosh pit.
it is a mosh pit. It's going, and the mosh pit is getting shut down very, very soon. And then
Yet another reason I'm leaving.
yeah, and then well, just because I have this whole bit that I have about the real estate values in New York. As soon as the L train goes down, they're all going to start ruining Queens. They don't want to keep ruining deeper into Brooklyn because
they're all moving to Astoria.
Yeah, they're all going to move to Astoria, or they'll find. Well, Astoria is kind of expensive, but I feel like they're going to hit Sunnyside, Woodside, Jackson Heights.
Yeah, off the 7. That's a good train.
Yeah.
That's definitely going to happen. I don't think people realize, like, everyone's like, oh, all those transplants aren't going to have their train, and I'm like, those transplants have their parents' money to move to other neighborhoods, and also those that live off the L currently, the L is only shut down from Bedford to 8th Ave. So they're going to be transferring to the C. They're going to be transferring to the G, to the J, to the M, to the sounds like I'm a rapper.
That could be your next chapter. If you're going back down to Georgia, there's a great hip hop scene. I think there's long due in the hip hop community, Chelsea, for
two white people talking about the hip hop community.
Well, no, because how many rappers wear cardigans? Not many.
I know. Yeah, true story. Yeah. I'm gonna get in there.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious how we get to this point. When you were growing up, what kind of kid were you? Like in high school, who were you? Like what archetype did you fill?
I don't think I really fell into an archetype. No, I think I went to my first 2 years in high school. I went to it was a magnet high school for math and science.
What does magnet school mean?
No, it was like a magnet charter high school. You know, charter schools?
Yeah, I know charter schools. Yeah.
It was based on the Bronx School of Arts and Sciences, Math and Sciences, I think.
Yeah.
It's based off that model. It doesn't exist anymore, but you can look it up. It has a Wikipedia page. It's called Fulton County Charter High School of Math and Science. Shout out Panthers. They're all going to listen to this.
I think they will.
Yeah, it was a really fun school. My parents wanted me to go there because I was a bit of a mischief maker in 8th grade. You know, like I said, my parents are going through divorce, and I think I acted out.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's hard for everybody. When my parents got divorced, I felt a lot of relief because it was done. Like the tension was broken, but then there's also that sort of like, okay, now I've got a lot of broken pieces, and I have to develop all these coping mechanisms that are going to affect my relationships in the future.
Right, and when you're a teenager, your brain isn't fully developed, so you don't even know exactly that you're going through something extremely traumatic. I mean, if you're a teenager, to me, teenagers are always drunk. Like they don't make good decisions; they're just idiots. Mm-hmm. I've never met a teenager I've probably met a couple teenagers that were like smarter and more mature than they are, but most teenagers are just totally not self-aware, and they're drunk people.
Exactly. Well,
Like,
you haven't been
whiners.
humbled. I don't think life's humbled you. Most teenagers, unless I always have those couple of friends that just have abnormally fucked up lives too early, but you haven't been humbled by life enough when you're that young, so you don't have any sense of empathy, I think, until
you don't
later.
You don't understand like the long-term effects of things that happened. You also because you haven't lived life very long.
Yeah.
So anyways, I went to this high school. My parents wanted me to go to this high school because I think they saw that I was with a bad group of friends, and they were kind of concerned with me.
Were you running with like the pink ladies of your school or something?
No, not even.
Because I'm trying to gauge the way I tend to gauge people from like high school is like, would we have been friends? I feel like we probably would have.
I think so too. And this is why, I'll tell you about this school.
Okay.
So that year my parents got divorced. was ninth grade.
Mm-hmm.
And actually I think it was early 10th grade. I don't remember. But that school really changed me in a lot of good ways.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started that school, are you looking at the time?
Oh no, I was looking at the levels.
Oh, okay. Am I too quiet?
Oh no, you're doing great.
Too loud? Okay. When I started at this school, I'm trying to think like how to say this. I was just a very different person. I was in a lot of pain.
Uh-huh.
And I know I don't want to get too into things that have happened to me and stuff, but
sure.
My parents were worried about me, and they enrolled me at the school that was like a nerd school.
Uh-huh.
And it was in a old furniture store. They took a Roberts furniture store, so I don't remember what the name of that. It used to be a chain, I think. And they turned it into a school.
Now this is a charter school story. Yes.
It's really great.
Uh-huh.
But I went in the day that they had me tour the school and enroll and everything. They had a wall of new students that just enrolled, like pictures. And I think it was to like help sell parents that this charter school is where your kid should be.
Uh-huh.
And I remember I saw this picture of this kid with braces and glasses, and he was a Jewish kid. He had like a Jufro.
Mm-hmm.
And I started crying so hard, just hysterical crying. I ran to the car and just sobbed my eyes out until my parents got me out of there. That they brought out the application. I had to sign it. They physically took my hand and made me sign it. And and that kid, that picture, he turned out to be my best friend in high school. And I still talk to him this day. He's a sweetheart. But like, you know what I mean? I'm just a young kid. Like, I didn't know anything about life or the kind of people you meet and everything. And you know, who becomes important to you. Like sometimes, like people will meet someone and immediately write them off and then become friends with them. That happens all the time. Mm-hmm. But at this school, I think developed a little bit of a more, I guess, individuality. I kind of broke away from my old patterns and like trying to fit in, because I wasn't friends with like popular kids, but I was definitely, you know, in 8th grade I was like trying to wear the tight tops from Wet Seal, and I was trying to like wear all the cool clothes and Abercrombie and Fitch. Remember, that was like really big. Birkenstocks. Like I really wanted to fit in. I was.
What years were you in high school? Was this?
I graduated in 2005.
2005. Okay, so around almost the same time as me. I was 2004. So, okay, yeah. Just there's that sort of there's that early tribe mentality. Like I hear like people talk about tribalism a lot. I think when it comes to politics now, but that's all where it starts. Like we're all just living different versions of the same sort of group coordination. I think. I don't know if you do. And then I think New York does that to people too, to tie that into what we've been talking about, is like people will spend a lot of money to feel validated. And that's like it's the same like middle school mentality. Like I remember once I bought a $50 Abercrombie shirt. It was an ugly shirt. It was hideous. Yeah. But I wanted so badly for people to see me and go, "Oh, she's wearing an Abercrombie shirt. That's really cool. She's really cool." Yeah, I know. I did the same thing. I wore I had the studded belt that I would wear.
Hot topic.
Yeah, I had the studded belt and like the Green Day Messenger bag, because I wanted people to know that I had good taste in music. You know, I have been to Warped Tour multiple times.
I went through that phase too. That was more. I was more into that kind of stuff in 9th grade, but that school taught me to be friends with people that weren't like me, because that school is extremely diverse. Yeah. Extremely diverse. And not just in ethnicity, but in income level, educational background. Like some of these kids were geniuses. Some of these kids I went to school with, they're incredibly successful. And just they do coding. They're engineers. They're like, and I spent some of my like formative years with some of the most interesting, capable people on the planet Earth. And then also some of the craziest, because like I said, it was diverse.
Yeah, of course.
So there were definitely some nutcases at that school. For sure.
Oh my God, yeah, like
a lot of drugs.
Oh yeah, no, of course. I think about the same way. Like my path through the comedy scene in New York. I got here in 2010. Didn't feel welcomed at the Creek until 2013, and was just like running around, and like I was like mixing company with like I was literally at some of the same mics with like Michelle Wolf, who's like a part of the pop culture zeitgeist.
She's amazing
in this current moment, or like Michael Che, or Jared Logan, and then also I'm at open mics with like a guy who's arrested for murdering his mom, like
recently he was
a couple years ago. I'll tell you.
That's horrifying. I had not heard of this.
I don't know what the outcome of that case was, but I saw the Googler and it got shared in Jake Hart's storytelling mic group, and I was like,
Crazy.
oh shit, I remember having a conversation with him on the train.
Well,
it's just sort of like, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go. You have your own thought.
I'm kind of riffing on this idea. Like I think about, it's like I sort of think about this. I think about it. It's like the underground version of what SNL is. Like SNL has been around for so long. It's had so many cast members that you've seen on this program. Some of those people become bigger than the show and become stars and celebrities in their own right. Some of them are the show, and then once they're off the show, they're not much, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And then there's Gary Croker, who he went and had a normal life after he was on SNL for that one season. Like it's so bizarre to me to think that what's regarded as this place, what's regarded as like the dream, afterwards it's like it can be as far as you go, or you can go higher. It's so bizarre to me to think like that.
Yeah.
It's I sort of feel like, because I used to think that once you hit that, like that's it. You're guaranteed. You've won. But then there's the second half that you could lose.
But also think about some celebrities who came out in the news recently with allegations and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I remember looking at Louis C.K. and being like, I envy his career. Like he's doing everything that I would want as a comic.
Yeah.
And then all of that stuff came out.
Yeah.
And there are other comedians. Like Amy Schumer rose to like such quick fame. Mm-hmm. And now I feel like there's like backlash, and
there's always
people can't stand her now.
There's always a certain point. I went to the same college as her. Like, so I took some of this. I had classes with some of the same classes she took. So I always feel interesting when people talk about her, because she's like
a
the successful.
Life, yeah.
A lot. She would be like the person who would come back and talk to students and be like, all right, well. Kind of, I always think of her in sort of that mode, but yeah, there's always this sort of, like, the trajectory comes where, like, even you see it with Dane Cook, is that you rise, you're cool, you're popular, you're too popular, you're too popular, everybody hates you, decline,
burn in a fire.
Yeah, there's even the burn in the fire, and now it either ends with career ruin, or like it gets cut short because you did something terrible a number of years ago, and now you have to reckon for it.
Yeah.
So where did you? So you go to this school. It seems like it from what you described, seems like it's a very crucial moment of like your personal development. Where did you go to college?
Georgia State University.
Georgia State. What'd you study?
I studied like communications. It was film and video, though. I took film classes.
But
it started as creative writing. I was actually a creative writing major And then I just decided to stay for one more year and get 2 degrees. Because it was like, I had a scholarship and I had one more year on it. So I was like, screw it. I'll just do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you had, so what are your 2 degrees in?
Film and video and creative writing.
Film and video and creative writing. So
I covered all the bases. Hey.
Great. So did you think you were gonna like write or direct films or TV at that point?
Oh yeah, like that's of course what I wanted to do. It's still what I want to do, but like my idea about where I want to go and what I want to do with that has changed significantly. I've changed as a person significantly since I graduated college, obviously.
Yeah. Where do you think it is now? Because even if you leave New York, I would hate to see you stop being creative. That's my biggest thing that makes me sad.
Really
is like
sweet.
I like seeing creative people continue to be creative. Like Adam, even though he says he's leaving stand-up, he's putting more effort into his podcast, and that is cool to me. So film. What's the idea? What's the idea that you've had in your mind?
I'm not leaving stand-up necessarily either. I'm not leaving the world. I'm just moving to another city. Atlanta is a great city to be a creative person. It's a lot cheaper to live there. I have friends there. My family's there. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of reasons for me to just go back there. And I'm not necessarily saying I'm moving back there permanently. I don't see myself coming back to New York. But I am open to moving to other places, and I'm open to other opportunities. So, but my idea, I think when I first got out of college, I wanted to do it all. Like I wanted to write a novel, I wanted to write a screenplay, and I already did. I wrote a screenplay while in college, and I wrote a novel when I was 19, but it's so bad. I don't even know if I could find it now. It was really bad. But yeah, I wanted to do it all, and I wanted to do it all right away, and I wanted everybody to see it, and I wanted it to work. And now I just think, again, it's like stand up. I'm like, there's so many comedians out there. Mm-hmm. And again, I open Netflix. There are so many crappy indie movies, and there are so many crappy everything out there, like TV series. And I'm just like, there is no rush for me to do this. I want to slow down, and I want to really, really do it right. Whatever it is that I put out there, I want to just do it the right way. I don't want to throw it up. Oh yeah, for likes and views and.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's that instantaneous feedback that we're addicted to on social media. And
it used to be like stand up helped me get addicted to that. That like tell a joke, get a response, and then that just becomes 80 like statuses on Facebook about how like like Trump's really bad at being the president. Like, yeah, I know. I've been following that. Is there a joke? No? Okay. I have that reaction a lot, but I know what you mean. There's that dopamine rush, and then but scripts and films, they're like a private toiling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
they take a lot of time and allowing them to like breathe. And I want to write something that's what I'm supposed to write, you know? And like I don't want to put another crappy indie, because if I wanted to, you can make an indie film now on basically zero budget. It is there's like mumblecore. Yes,
I'm very familiar. Like I know the good mumblecore. But yeah, I know exactly what I think you're talking about. Like I'm getting the sense that's kind of your style. But yes, if we wanted to get an iPhone and an app, we could bang something out where it's like, girl in New York City has like difficulties in relationship. Guy in New York City
difficulties in relationships.
Also has difficulty in relationships. And those are all the kind of movies that my girlfriend just loves. Like she loves like How to Be Single and
my favorite movie is Lost in Translation, which it is about that. It's like isolation and I love that movie. That
movie's great. I didn't even really have much of that movie in my head when I was in Tokyo.
Really?
Yeah. Like I had seen it, but when I was in Tokyo, I wasn't reliving like that particular movie in my head. I was just, if anything, I was probably thinking like, yeah, it's kind of like Blade Runner. I could see how this could very quickly turn into Blade Runner.
Well, that's why I love Lost in Translation, because I like one of the many reasons. But Tokyo is more of like a backdrop. It's like it's a scene. It's the the movie is so intensely focused on those two characters.
Yeah.
And a lot of movies, they try to do a lot. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, we have to have like 7 characters and they're interwoven relationships, and they're all like, they're just like a lot of plot stuff happening.
Yes.
And Lost in Translation, it's been accused of being boring by many people, but I remember I watched that movie and I was like, that was beautiful. I felt like a real person when I was watching that.
Yeah.
Can I watch it again?
Excellent. Yeah, I would have to go back and see it. So that's your favorite movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's very high up for me. My favorite movie is probably, and it was something my first girlfriend in college introduced me to. And it's really cliche, but it's the one thing that, like, all this, like the stuff that came out about Morgan Freeman cannot ruin The Shawshank Redemption for me. I know that's the worst thing to say, but I cling to that movie still.
No, I totally feel you. All of this stuff, that's another aspect of like leaving New York, and like also nobody has to come out and quit comedy. You can just stop doing it. Like, this world is very stressful right now. That shouldn't, your focus should not, nobody in this world right now should be focused on their career trajectory in comedy, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It ultimately doesn't matter for this universe. Like, there's a lot of other things going on. And what was I talking about before this? Sorry.
No one has to quit something about quitting comedy. Yeah, it's really tangentially to Lost in Translation and The Shawshank Redemption and all this stuff that
like,
comes
so
out.
the Me Too stuff that came out. Not only is Donald Trump elected in 2016, but in 2017, just this purge of Hollywood cancer.
Yes.
That is like, just get it out, rip it out. And that was emotionally exhausting. Because what happens when you're reading all these news stories and you're seeing it, like, it reminds you of your own traumas, and it reminds you of situations that you've heard other people go through, and they come and talk to you about it, and you come and talk to them about it. I know lots of people who, like, they think a huge reason they broke up with their significant other was because of the Me Too movement.
Yeah.
Because it was just emotionally draining. Oh no,
it absolutely was. Not that I can, not that I'm an expert in this, but it came so much so quickly because it had been ignored and not talked about for so long.
Yeah,
I think so. When it happens a lot at once, and then you can recalibrate. And we can set up the new, like Maria Hynek told me that she thinks sometimes society needs like a hard reset. Like, when your computer's messed up and you have to turn it off by holding the power button down.
I think that's happening right now.
That's what's happening. And something I wanted to say earlier, and then we'll get back to you, because I'm interested in this like indie film that we're going to do.
Oh, okay.
What was I talking about? So the people talk about like, when people talk about like PC culture has been all the blah, 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 blah. I wonder if it is a collective maturing of our generation. Like, the same jokes I was making at open mics when I was 23 are not the same kind of jokes that I want to talk about when I'm 32. The same way, like, I was listening to an interview with Bo Burnham, and like, he's embarrassed of the stuff like he wrote when he was younger that got him famous. And I think that's a sign of, I think that's good, because that's a sign that you're changing as a person. But I wonder, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, now that we're all hitting this age, we're all kind of deciding like, okay, maybe we don't have to make like the crass, no deeper meaning joke about cancer or handicapped people and insert whatever. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I mean, I think society is experiencing like some of the stuff that was passable on TV, for example, in the 50s. Like
Yeah.
things that people like white people would regularly play like ironic caricatures of Asians. That was like a very common thing. It was in comedies and stuff. Like,
Oh yeah, I remember
it
that
popped
Mickey
up all
Rooney role.
in Breakfast at Tiffany's, like, and for years it was seen as fine. And Woody Allen's films, like, you know, not Midnight in Paris, Manhattan.
Yeah.
I still think there's so much about Manhattan that is beautiful, and it definitely has merit as a film.
It's a beautifully shot movie. Like if you look at it for like black and white shot composition.
Cinematography, and the acting and the writing. There's some really great scenes in that movie.
Yeah,
but there's a big glaring problem in that movie, which is she's a teenager. Like,
yeah, she's 17.
That's not okay.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because for decades society was like, that's fine, and also that's one of the greatest films of all time. And I mean, society is changing, so people, when society goes through some, like, slavery used to be legal.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if stand-up was a thing during that time? Like, people were telling jokes about like owning people, and then like all of a sudden they're like, you shouldn't own people, and also that's a bad joke. Write different stuff. Like, that's what's happening though. We're like,
I know, and then
the society is getting gutted, and so we as individuals who are trying to write jokes are having to re-examine and also like realize that sometimes it's not just a joke. And also though, there's like this knee-jerk reaction that I think comes from social media and from blogging and like stuff like that, where someone will hear something that offends them and they won't go, oh, that's a person who maybe doesn't understand that this is super offensive. They go, I'm going to attack this person and their character, and they're a bad person. And it's like, no, sometimes I almost everyone that I care about in life has said something before that I'm like, eee.
Oh yeah, of course.
I've definitely said things before that I regret saying.
Oh yeah,
I'm a human being.
Yeah, of course. And then also because if you go through and you haven't, then that's suspicious. Also, you got to have a few dings, or else. Like if you're buying a used car that looks completely fine, you put the key in and then it just explodes.
Like Bill Cosby.
Yes.
Squeaky clean image.
Yeah, I love that Jim Jeffries bit about Bill Cosby, about how he had people protest his shows in Australia for doing this chunk about Bill Cosby, and then he was like, you know who's never had people protest their gigs for their material?
Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby. I saw him live twice.
Bill Cosby?
Yeah, I did before the shit hit the fan.
The Jell-O pudding.
Yeah, like I saw him in
Sorry,
Queens.
That was stupid.
Yeah, so it's weird to think it's weird to think that it's weird to think so like half of my heroes have committed suicide and the other half are monsters.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah. Well, you know. So far, my favorite band, the only crazy thing that's happened is the lead singer left and he believes in aliens. So I got that going for me. So what is the indie film that you're going to make?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I have scripts. I have scripts and stuff that I've worked on. I have all kinds of stuff that every day it's like you chip away at whatever it is you've been working on the day before. I think I'm just going to keep working on
What's
my
the idea you're
until
most excited about?
I mean, I don't know. I think currently right now in my life, I'm just excited to move back home and be near my family.
That's important.
The project I was working the hardest at was my weekly comedy show.
Which one was that?
Side Ponytail.
Side Ponytail. Okay, yeah. I've heard good things about that show.
Yeah, it's a great show. But I got dumped from it.
So sorry.
So, yeah. No, it's fine. Yeah, they said it was like a business decision and that I wasn't like far enough comedically. So, which is fine. Like but it was mostly just the way they did it. It felt really cold, especially it felt very cold and urgent considering it is a free bar show. Like it's not like they're running a business operation, like a true business.
Yeah. They don't own Gotham or
right.
And I don't know. This is how
SNL,
far I have no, and I don't know who produces Side Ponytail. I've never done it, so I can't speak to who specifically. But I know what you. Yeah, but I know what you're saying. Like I had several moments where I've like asked on shows that by people I know, and it's the show's too big for where I'm at.
Yeah, they have a really successful bar show.
Yeah.
And I hope that they just keep doing that bar show for years and years.
Yeah.
I really do. Like, hope the best for that show and for them. It's not, it's in the grand scheme of things. I was very upset about it when I found out. Honestly, I like cried a lot. And then like I was laying in bed and I was just trying to do anything to like get my mindset in a better place. And like, usually for me, that means thinking about stars, thinking about the universe, thinking about the planets. And I was just like, that is a tiny, tiny show in a huge universe that keeps going and is infinite. And this doesn't matter. Just
like a little planetarium of the mind.
Yeah, just like it's very reassuring to know how small you are and how small. Like people like to think New York is. Oh, like it's New York. I live in New York.
The center of the universe.
Big Apple.
Yeah.
New York is, it's a microscopic speck in the universe.
Well, go to Tokyo or go to Shanghai. They make, I think Anthony Bourdain said Shanghai makes New York look like the third world.
Yeah. New York is not it. It's not the end. It's not, it's one city.
Yeah, it's one city of many. Granted, it's a great city. There's a lot of my favorite stuff is here, and like when I first moved here, just the idea of I'm in a select city. There are movies in this city that are not in the movie theater from where I'm from. Oh my gosh,
it's magical. Yeah,
I can walk to a Chinese food restaurant. I don't have to call delivery, like that
For
kind of
me,
stuff. My threshold is so low.
I was like, I can go see these huge comedians for free. These comedians that I would definitely have to pay money to see in Atlanta.
Yeah,
that was so cool. And comedy has always, for me, been something that I'm interested in, and very much makes me feel less alone. I love laughing. So that was a very magical and cool part of it to me. Is being near all of that.
Yeah, me too. Like my third day here, I saw Andy Kindler and Eugene Merman at comics.
I love Eugene Merman especially.
He's so funny. I think he's great.
Man, he's incredibly creative and different, and his voice is just hysterical. I adore him. But I think New York is a great city and it has a lot to offer, but I also think some people do stay here forever and they make it work. It's totally a thing. I see people that have been living here their entire lives and they're great. And then you have some people who come up here for like a year and then they lose all their money and just go back home. And then there are people like me who just get burnt out. Like I'm tired. I'm really tired.
Oh no, I know exactly how you feel.
I want to take a nap without hearing an ambulance go down the street.
Yeah, no, it's a city geared towards like the whole hustle mentality of New York is also geared towards burnout, and it is glad that I think that you realized that before you just ended up as like one of those like crazy people on the subway ranting about the government.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a couple free bar shows away from becoming that. I think I think we all are.
I think all of us are teetering. All of us are one bad set away from just teetering into oblivion.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have your priorities on straight. And for me, like, just straight up, my mental health, especially the past year, has not been great. Not even like okay, like really bad. I've been in some dark places, and that's my priority. And also, like, the world is really seriously hard right now, and
it's another source of pressure.
Yeah, and it's like, if it gets harder, because that is a definite reality. Like, if it gets harder, I want to be near my family. I want to be with my sister. Like, I don't want to be in New York being like, who's my support network? Because I don't. If I'm honest with myself, I don't really have it up here. I don't have like an emergency contact.
Right.
You know, it's like, I had fun here. I moved here. I had a good time in my 20s. I learned a lot of lessons. I had some really cool jobs, and now it's just time to go home.
I hear you. This and this will be the last thing I ask you. I think this is a great way to close. What are you say your mental health's not been great this past year? What are some things that you've been doing that you've found have been beneficial for you in that regard?
Well, I call my parents regularly. I feel like calling your family is really important, and like really, really talking to them. Let's see, what else do I do? I mean,
yeah, that's funny you bring that up. My dad, after the divorce, we're not close for like a decade, and my mom, I'm learning more stuff as I spend more time with my dad and my stepmom, and everything is not so clear cut as it was, and I find, again, a lot of the habits I developed to protect myself are now crippling me emotionally. So it's interesting that you bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, family relationships. I'm not saying my relationship with my parents is the best. I think family relationships are the hardest.
Yeah.
But those are also, this isn't the case for everyone, but for me and for some people, your family, those are the people who've been there, and they don't want anything from you all. I mean, I don't want to get too into it, but that is definitely not the case for some people that I know, including my dad.
Sure.
But most of the time, they don't want anything from you, and if anything, they just love you and they just want to support you.
Yeah.
Most of the time. That's not always the case.
Sure.
And luckily, that is the case for me. And so, yeah, calling them has been really good. Journaling, running.
Yeah.
I ran my first half marathon this year.
Oh, nice.
I do yoga. I do a lot of yoga. Yoga, I think, is difficult sometimes. Like yesterday, I did hot yoga, which I think wasn't a great idea because I had a pretty bad panic attack. Like, the heat, I think, was not good for that.
Yeah, especially I think the heat wave is still going on.
Yeah, I probably wasn't like adequately hydrated. Cutting back on alcohol always helps if you can. If you're like, I've been drinking again. I was going to take like a long break, but I started drinking again because you know, booze does help sometimes.
It does.
It's like it's a release.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. I found like one or two occasionally at the end of the day is, and because it's not, I don't have the disease of addiction. I put that into ice cream mostly.
Yeah, I feel that.
I find, yeah. Again, there's that kind of release.
Logging off social media too. That's another thing. Like, I might delete Facebook again because I was in a much better place when I was off Facebook than when I got back on it.
Well, make sure not to delete it until I post this so that I can tag you in.
So I can
I'm kidding.
I'm not going to delete it
I know.
soon. The evil thing about Facebook is it is beneficial to people in some ways, which makes it very hard to delete. I'm like, you know, moving to another city, even though I know people from that city, it's better for me to be connected with them on Facebook because they can see where I'm at and they don't have to necessarily have my phone number. They can get in touch with me and I can develop a social network there. But again, like we were talking about, these apps and stuff, they turn people into sociopaths.
Yeah.
So like sometimes the people that seek you out are not the people that you want seeking you out.
Of course.
It's really messed up.
Yeah, it's like so it's like water. Like a little bit it will save you, but too much will kill you. Well, it sounds like you have.
Gotta be wary.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've got your head on your shoulders, right? And it seems like you're on your way towards what you want to be doing next. So
Thank you.
Well, I hope I hope that when you're doing when you finish your screenplay and it's in a place where you're really excited to be working on it and the world needs to see it, I hope that you'll think, I did Will's podcast. I'll let him know when auditions
I'll give you credit.
Just let me know when auditions are.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're in. You want to act? Is that what you want to do?
I used to act. I went to school for theater, but so yeah, I've like all of us, the whole entertainment maneuver. It's all I have let go of the urgent desperation to make it my full-time job because it kind of is in a different way. Mm-hmm. But I'm now in a place where I can really focus on the aspects of the entertainment business that really excite me. And for that, it's podcasting, stand up on shows that are fun to do, my one-man show, and looking into animation and voiceover and acting.
That's
and
so
indie
cool.
drama.
I love animation.
So being able to focus on that is exciting. So we'll probably have to talk again in a few years.
Yeah, totally. No, that's the cool thing about the internet is you're so much closer to people who don't necessarily live near you. Like you can collaborate with anybody now. And you can work from anywhere. If you're podcasting is so cool. I did a podcast for a very short time.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things. It was it was called Himalayan Salt Lamp Podcast, and it was the dumbest idea ever. It was just me talking in front of my lamp, and people could make fun of my Himalayan salt lamps. To me, are extremely funny because they're just first of all they're bullshit. They're not.
To me, it's just a unusual lamp.
Yeah, but they're everywhere. And I was just noticing when I started the podcast, I was like, where the fuck? These lamps are everywhere. And I was very amused by that. And at the time, I was kind of in a place where you were, where I was like, man, I am sick of sitting through hours of the same really offensive and isolating jokes. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I want to try the podcast thing. A lot of people are doing podcasts, and a ton of people, and it happens more every day. Yeah. Every day I see a comedian saying they're starting a podcast. But I was like, you know what? I'll try it. Who cares? It's the cool thing about podcasting is it doesn't cost that much. No. And you can get a very wide audience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I love about it. That's what I love about it. It's it's true unrestrained freedom, I feel. Yeah. Cuz stand up is freedom, but not really. Podcasting is free in a way that I think a lot of things aren't.
You can get paid for it too.
Yeah.
Stand up, it's a lot harder to get paid for that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm still working on some of that, but
it takes time with a podcast. Yeah. It takes years. But yeah, I did it for a little time, and it was really fun. And maybe I'll do it again at some point, but it just it was a lot of work for, considering I was also doing a weekly show, a monthly show, and I had a full-time job trying to make money and trying to survive in New York City. I was just like, I can't keep pretending this podcast is a priority for me anymore. Mm-hmm. I have to take a step back and like slow down a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to what you do next, and we'll probably have to touch base again and do another one of these in a few years.
Yeah, hell yeah. I'm like, and I mean, that's really cool. We'll definitely stay in touch.
Cool. Sounds good. Thank you, Chelsea.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
What a grounded, focused, very funny comic, and I'm glad that she's recognized that it's time to move on from New York, and I look forward to what she does next. So, thank you, Chelsea, for coming over and being so honest and open on the show. Guys, as that's our show for this week. So if you want to check out more episodes of of Awesome Disaster. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher Radio and on Libsyn. That's my RSS provider. I love them. I've been with them since the beginning. I can't say enough good things about Libsyn. They're not sponsoring me, but if you hear this and want to, I would appreciate it. You can find me on Twitter at ComicWillCarey, and also you can check out my recent episode with MC Lars and Schaefer the Dark Lord. I'm really happy with those, and I'm so glad that I was able to have that. So I will see you guys later, and I will see you guys next week between Awesome and Disaster. Take care, everybody.